It was 10:55 on a Thursday night. And I was already in bed, ready to get some nice sleep. And then my phone pinged. And honestly, being a little bit addicted to my phone, I checked the message even though it was late. And I opened it and like squinted to read it in the dark. And I thought, that can't be right. So I put the phone down. And then I picked it up straight away again to check if I'd imagined what I thought I read. A very, very well-known brand had contacted me, right? And they wanted me to voice a campaign for one of their new product launches. And I'd voiced like campaigns for companies that people have probably heard of before. But this was probably one of the most well-known celebrity brands that I was going to do a voiceover for. And after like when I'd done it and people had seen it, they were asking me like, how on earth did that happen? And at the time, my honest answer was just, I don't know, like it just happened. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it just happened wasn't the complete truth. But if it didn't just happen, what actually created that opportunity to land in my lap? Because let's be honest, right? There's a really difficult period when you're trying to do your own thing where you keep showing up. Like you're showing up. You're doing what people say and you keep showing up, but nothing is happening. You're putting posts out there. Nothing. You're improving your work. Nothing's going on. You're sending out all these emails. Whatever it is, it's just nothing. You're putting everything out there and nothing is coming back. You keep trying to make yourself better, but there's just no hard evidence that any of this is working. And after a while, you just start thinking to yourself, like, what is the point? Does any of this stuff matter? But what that message that arrived in my inbox at 10:55 on a Thursday night taught me is that when you're going through that period where you feel like nothing is happening and nobody's noticing you, in actual fact, you may still be changing the probability of what happens next. And by the end of this episode, I want you to understand why when you feel like nothing is happening, that might not be as true as it feels. So let's go back to my example. In isolation, me getting that opportunity just seemed very, very random. And in isolation, people only saw that one outcome, me working with a well-known brand, right? But what they didn't see was all the time nothing was really happening. All of the jobs I didn't get, all of the improvements I needed to make along the way, the time spent building a reputation where at some point someone felt confident enough to contact me. There are millions of opportunities that appear to happen overnight, but really they have a very long runway. The issue with that though is that most of us judge the process before the evidence arrives in our lap. We look at these quiet periods and we think, I'm getting nowhere. And that's usually the moment that we start losing faith and changing direction or giving up what we're doing, convincing ourselves that this whole thing just isn't working. But looking back, there are two simple things that made that opportunity much more probable. And neither of those two things are like genius things or particularly clever, which is why they're probably so easy to overlook. So let me share them with you now and you can think about if you're overlooking these things as well, right? And the first thing was visibility. And this applies to everything, no matter what industry you're in. I had placed myself somewhere where my ideal customer was already looking. And it sounds ridiculously obvious, but I think a lot of people kind of don't think about where the customer is already looking. So you can be incredible at what you do, but still miss massive opportunities because the right people cannot find you. And you don't lose these opportunities because there's necessarily someone better out there for it than you. Sometimes you lose the opportunity because somebody else was just more visible than you. It's why influencers are on these platforms where they know brands are looking for influencers. They are placing themselves in the path of demand. I mean, visibility doesn't guarantee you're going to get the opportunity, but it does mean that you haven't removed yourself from the possibility of getting it. But being seen is just the first part, right? Because when someone finds you, this is when another question begins. And that is, why should I choose this person? Being visible and being convincing are two completely different things, right? And you need to be both. So in my scenario, this brand didn't just find a voice that they needed. They also found previous work. They found reviews from past customers. They found evidence, things that reduced the risk of choosing me. So in other words, I was showing up in a way that made it easier for them and less risky to say yes. So the plumber can be on the first page of Google, But does their website look trustworthy? Are there reviews from people saying that they're really happy customers? So if you look at it, like being found, being visible gets you considered, and being believable increases the probability of getting chosen. And I know that this sounds very simplistic, but we love to overcomplicate things, right? And because it sounds simple, we think that it's just not enough. So this is one of the things that led me to looking at business really differently. Most of what we do doesn't produce this immediate reward, but it does change the probability. Every piece of work that you share, every client that has an amazing experience with you, every review that they give, every improvement that you make makes a particular outcome more likely. And this is like an intangible thing that you just can't feel or see happening. You just keep going. And that's why these dead periods can feel so difficult for you. Because in essence, the probability of something happening might be increasing, but at the same time, your finances and your life just still look the same. So I think we need to consider these two things. Firstly, where does the person I want to work with actually look for people like me? Not where everybody tells you you should be showing up. There's no point, just as an example, showing up on TikTok, right? When your type of client is looking for people just on LinkedIn. And then the second thing you need to consider is when they find me, what gives them confidence in choosing me? What do they need to see? What questions are they trying to answer in their own head? What would make choosing me feel less risky? So what happens when you do this is that you're no longer treating the result as pure luck. You're building these conditions that make luck more likely to find you. So you can't control exactly when the opportunity comes, but you can control whether you're visible when somebody starts looking and whether there's enough there for them to feel confident in choosing you. So if you're in one of those periods where you're showing up, you're improving, you're doing the work, and you're wondering whether any of this stuff is making a difference, I understand why it can feel pointless, right? Because you can't see probability increasing, but it doesn't mean that it isn't. You don't know which, post that someone's going to see, which piece of your work they're going to come across, which conversation is going to lead somewhere. All you can do is keep making yourself easier to find and easier to trust, and also more difficult to overlook, right? Because when those opportunities finally arrive for you, everybody else is probably going to call it luck. You know that it started long, long, long before that.